Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get on your feet.
Watch me light the sky!
And he scores with an unbelievable one-handed tuck-in goal. And the Blues have tied the game on a highlight reel goal.
Watch me light the sky!
Shoots. Game winner. You can bring out the Zamboni.
Hands held high, sweat
All right.
dripping off me like
Good
salt.
evening, loungers, or whatever time you're listening to this podcast. It is the Rinkside Podcast with Doc Noyes and Laughing Sean. We are
I'm laughing because we're about so close to Blue season.
less than 24 hours away from the puck drop. Or no, I'm sorry. We are 2 days away from the puck drop.
Well, when most listeners are listening to this, it'll hopefully be tomorrow morning. So
We made it.
yeah,
And that's the big thing. A lot of surprises. The roster, we're still waiting, and I don't know what's happening. The deal with Scott Gomez, a lot of tweets, a lot of emails, things going back and forth saying he was going to be signed today. Scotty Upshaw was signed, but Gomez is still
up in the
out
air.
there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were expecting it. Other sports writers and that were expecting that signing, and we've not seen it. And my understanding was everything was supposed to be finalized by 4:00 on Tuesday, but maybe the Blues have still got something. It's just not been announced right. But Rade, Piarve, Butler, Lindbaum, all sent back. Edmondson, Payarko, and Fabry. Fabry's getting the 9-game look, though.
That's
So
impressive.
depending on what happens there, we may see him longer or not. But the shocker from a lot of people expected Lindbaum to make the roster, but both Payarko and Edmondson were on it, and Payarko was number 4 in points for the preseason. A lot of people were shocked by that. He was tied for third with another player, but 6 points in 5 games. That ought to surprise a lot of people. He looked phenomenal in camp, and he just beat out the other guys.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to. Is he was more prepared. We got Scotty Upshaw in on a PTO, signed him a 1-year 2-way deal worth $700,000, which is nice. A nice veteran in there. He'll start in St. Louis. It may be back and forth between St. Louis and Chicago, but still a great ad. He'll be wearing 39, or he was wearing 39 in camp. He'll wear number 10 in the regular season, and Edmondson will be wearing number 6 during the regular season. A lot of fans are fired up. This is what I feel is a make or break season for a lot of players.
It definitely is. I definitely agree. What surprised me about Payarko, like you said, he got 6 points in 5 games, and he hasn't had a preseason game prior to that, and that's amazing. He just came in there and earned a spot on the roster with his hard work and determination. Well deserved. Good roster spot pickup for the Blues for Payarko.
And like I said, a lot of me included were shocked with just how everything fell before camp. I think there was a lot of people were guessing, okay, maybe 1 or 2 players might switch around or whatever, but a lot more movement than was originally expected. Especially Payarve getting signed to that contract. Everybody expected him. Okay, he's all fired up. He's going to stay up with the Blues. Now he's in Chicago.
It's got to be a bummer for him. Not only for him, especially as also his mental edge. It's got to be a big blow to him.
Well, and the best thing he can do, just like he did last year in the call-ups and that, is come back every time he's called up with a positive attitude and that'll definitely help because the Blues will pay attention to that. If he comes in kind of crappy, being upset with the whole deal, then they'll have a less tendency to call him up or use him. If he comes in given 100% all the time between the AHL and the NHL, will definitely fall in his favor.
And look at how deep we are in our team in Chicago as well. With our team, we have Ratty, we have Barbashev, and now Payarvi as well. And you know what else? Berglund is still injured, and he's going to be back in 4 months. And then who are you going to send down as well? The Blues are so deep for future seasons as well.
It can be both problematic and a benefit to have that. It's if you don't have many injuries, it can be a little bit detrimental because you're having a hard time who you're sitting. The big determination is if Fabry goes beyond the 9 games, then same problem is you got to figure out who's going where. If he doesn't, then somebody else. There's a slot there. You can even things out a little bit, but it's a good problem to have to be so deep. So if we do get a rash of injuries, which we sometimes seem to get, we know we can call up guys that are solid, and it's not like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Exactly, with Upshaw with the 2-year two-way deal.
Sure, and to look at it long term, you may have some excellent trade bait come trade deadline too. Depending on if you're too stacked and gonna be stacked for a long time, you may see some guys get moved and bring in a veteran or bring in some kind of a monster deal. Yeah. And you don't want to necessarily see that, but depending on who's playing good, bad, or indifferent, you could see a lot of moves there. But it's not even the puck hasn't even dropped for the regular season yet, so it's a lot to think about. But having being deep that way, it will definitely help whatever we do.
I agree, and you also have to keep in mind Backus is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. If I'm correct, I believe he is. And I know Philly was very interested in the offseason. Come trade deadline time, they might be interested in him again.
And sure. And the thing with Backus is a lot of people get upset with is he takes stupid penalties at times. The most inopportune times, we saw it quite a bit last season, is he would get undisciplined, make and being the captain of the team, you can't do that.
You can't do that. In game 1 in the playoffs last year, when we got the first empty netter scored against us, took a stupid penalty, which we actually ended up getting a shorthanded goal on that kept us in the game. That somehow kept us in the game, and we were a man short because of that, and we still had to pull the goalie just to be up the same men.
So if that undisciplined level of play continues, if everybody else is leading and doing a phenomenal job, depending on what his numbers are, or if they're trying to land another big veteran, you could definitely see that. Like I said, it's way too early to really tell for sure, but we're going to have some phenomenal lineups. Lots of could see a Steen, Stasny, Tarasenko line, Schwartz, Laterra, maybe Fabry in there, little Yaskin, Backus, and Brouwer, and there's another one that he's going to be just all over the ice and impressive. And then the fourth line with Upshaw, Brodziak, Leaves, or Ott, and who of those guys spends more time sitting in the press box?
It's going to be interesting to see how the fourth line, especially where how Upshaw is going to be used, or if Brodziak, Reeves, Ott, how they're going to stick around. And keep in mind, in possible lineup for opening night, the Steen, Stasny, Tarasenko line. This line in preseason was just clicking on all cylinders. I mean, they got a lot of points in the preseason. It'll be interesting. Last season, it would seem like the chemistry just wasn't there. This year, seems like it's going to be good. It seems like it's going to be good from what we've seen from postseason so far.
Sure, and a lot of it, I think Stasny coming in last year it took him too long, or he just had an issue getting into the system, getting into the way Hitchcock wanted things, the way the guys played together, and he was just couldn't find his spot, but I think as the season progressed, he seemed to get a little bit better. But I think some of the initial that big contract signing is over his head. I mean, he's put a lot of pressure on himself. The Blues put a lot of pressure on him. His family did with being I don't want to say a legacy for St. Louis, but being that Stasny name. And now I think he's kind of been able to settle in, and I think it's going to make a big difference for him this year compared to what we saw last year. A lot of people were disappointed, expected huge numbers, and just didn't see it. But now I think some of that pressure is another one on the defensive side to keep an eye on is Jay Bouwmeester. Is with his injuries and issues last year, if he comes out firing, he's going to be a great one. And he looked good out there. I did notice, and maybe it was just for training camp, he's wearing a half shield compared to no visor at all last year. So I'm curious what his switch was, or maybe if it was just for training camp.
I did notice he did when he came back from his injury last season, he did wear the visor. I don't know.
So maybe he'll stick with that all year.
He might stick with that all year, and who knows? The groin injury may have been nagging him the rest of the year, as it probably was affecting his play. Like as long as he stays healthy, and he looked healthy in training camp and preseason, he should definitely be back up to speed with Pietrangelo, and it'll be interesting to see the other deep pairings as well: Shattenkirk, Gunnarsson, Edmondson, Payarko, and Bertuzzo. Where are they going to fit in when Bertuzzo gets back healthy as well? Where those deep pairings, you can assume that Pietrangelo and Bouwmeester are going to be together. Shattenkirk maybe could be with Edmondson, Payarko. The combinations are endless for the next two deep pairings as well.
Yeah, with the size of those guys, it's gonna be fun to watch.
Indeed.
Like I say, going back to Bouwmeester a little bit, is watching him at camp. Him and Ott both were two of the guys that I thought were very fast on their skates, much more than I'd seen in the past. So I don't know if they changed up their training or what they did, but they were much quicker. They weren't caught flat-footed coming when the stuff was coming out of the zone. It was they looked much more comfortable. So I think that's going to help them coming into the season. And then the other big question is Elliott and Allen.
The biggest question of the season.
It really looks. I mean, it's going to be a tandem affair again. And looking at camp, what I got to see of camp and following the preseason games, neither was bad. Watching Elliott in training camp, because Allen had some back issues that Saturday during training camp and didn't do anything on Sunday or Monday. But Allen Elliott was he always had a good eye for the puck, controlled the rebounds well, didn't fight the puck, was very smooth in what he was doing, where he was going, and that's what I expect out of Elliott. And I think as well as he played last year, I think there was some frustration because of the whole Allen being number one late this season, and maybe that was done, and maybe they wronged him a little bit, but he settled into the role he has, and I think that's going to make a lot of difference. I'd like to see Elliott play more than Allen. A lot of people may disagree, but Elliott, what I've seen of him, just looks better.
I feel like Elliott got a taste of what Halak got in 2013. No disrespect to how Brian Elliott played in 2013. He played phenomenal in the playoffs. It was just Yaroslav Halak was injured, and he expected to come back and have that role, but no, they row with Elliott. And I'm not trying to take away what Elliott did. Elliott was the best player in that postseason for the Blues in 2013. He kept us in that series against the LA Kings. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but he got a little taste of it with Halak, with what Halak went through. With when Allen was given the reins. I believe personally that is what I think happened with Elliott. Now, if that's what happened, I'm sure like Halak came back in 2013-14 season. He played the first 5 games with the Blues and he won 4 of them. He won the first 4 games and then he had a bad game against San Jose. But ultimately, if Elliott plays like the way Halak began that season, I think Elliott's going to be going to have the reins to go with the rest of the year. I think that's how it's going to be. If he stumbles early, I think they're going to lean back on Allen. Excuse me.
And Hitchcock's, I think, has to back away from the. Sometimes even if they're hot, I'll switch goalies.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let the hot goalie stay in there until he gives you a reason to move him out, because we saw that several times, and in a few cases we got burned with it. It's tough. I mean, I'm not the best goalie by any stretch of the imagination, but I am a goalie, and you don't like when you're on a streak to then find out the next game, no, we're going to bring the other guy in just because we want to get him some ice time. And I mean, I know you don't want to go a long stretch, but if your goalie's hot and making the saves for you and the team's clicking, don't screw it up.
I agree. I definitely agree that Allen should have played a little, that he should have played in the playoffs. I'd say around I think Elliott should have started game 6, if not game 5, personally. But because Allen just looked wore down at the end of game 5.
Well, and he had faced pressure in the regular season, but the postseason's totally just a totally different animal.
Agree, and it's good that he got that experience as well.
And that will help. I mean, depending on once we get through the stretch of the season, we at least know both guys can deal with lots of games. No, neither goalie just completely wore down early on, so they can handle it. But I'd rather us see one guy, because most of the other teams aren't doing the tandem thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason behind that.
I agree. I definitely agree with you there, Doc. You don't see teams usually try to go with 2 goalies. You saw last postseason in the Nashville-Chicago series, Crawford was horrendous. And they went with Scott Darling, but they went back to Crawford because they believed in him. They believed in Crawford. And you saw what Crawford did. He amped his play up in the second round, and he swept the Wild. He went on against the second round, did a very good job against the Ducks, and then the postseason again, and then the final against Tampa. Even though Tampa had the goalie issue with Bishop and their other goalie, he was still keeping them in the games, which is exactly what you want your goaltender to do.
Sure. Yeah, you don't just throw them in the trash. You come back to them as soon as you're able to, if they're able to. But I hope Hitchcock makes the right decisions, and we'll see in these. I think I'm going to base it off the first 10 games, and we'll kind of have a good idea from that. But I'd rather see Elliott, but a lot of people disagree. The other thing that'll be a big for goaltenders as well as players is the 3-on-3 overtime.
That's going to be interesting.
It's fun to watch, but I mean the biggest debate that I think we even had on a past show, and I've had with others, is with everybody complaining about Oshie being gone. Well, he's more or less diffused because the shootout is going to go down
way low.
So, but the biggest thing is the timing. Is when you're if you're going to wait till puck stoppages, things like that, to try and switch guys up, because I think early on in the season, it's going to be there'll be some miscues for line changing in that, and teams are going to get burnt and lose games because they mistimed switching guys out.
It's going to be interesting because you're going to have fire wagon hockey. You're going to have north-south going back and forth. If it plays out fluidly like that, where it's 3-on-3, you have all this space. You can go east-west and just move north-south in a hurry. And there's not really a chance for the changes to be made. Unless if you're the lone D man and you got your 2 forwards going into the zone, that's basically your only time for your D to change. And if you're a forward and you mishandle the puck, the other team's going on the other way 3-on-1. And it's not. And when as a forward do you take that line change? You have to wait until the next whistle, and it's going to be very important for the goalies to control rebounds in overtime. to get their teams line changes as well. They got to smother the puck.
And you're going to have a lot of guys gassed just if they can't get those changes out right. And then with getting if you do end up getting a penalty, then it's going to be 4-on-3.
Somebody told me this. I had a friend say this to me. Wouldn't it be something if you really wanted to make the overtime interesting? All defensive zone penalties. Maybe this could be in the future for the NHL. All defensive zone penalties immediately go to penalty shots.
Yeah, but then it brings it back to just like the shootout, and that's what they're trying to get away from is this one-on-one stuff against the goalie, and that's what the NHL was trying to back some off of is too many teams were getting pissed because games were getting decided by a one-on-one, just a one shooter on the goalie, and that's why this rule change came about. So I don't see them going that way. I may be totally wrong, and you be spot on, but just because of the change to 3-on-3 and wanting to back down on that, they won't want to go back to it that direction. But I'm excited to see it, and I think
I'm excited to see it too.
I bet in the first few games this week we'll see some teams go to that, and I'll be curious to see how it all plays out. And I mean, Thursday night's coming quick. The excitement's there. People who haven't seen their brick can go see that before opening night. I know the Blues. I guess I'm a little disappointed though with what the Blues are doing.
Don't they usually have a bar out or some activities out inside the arena?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not happy with. I think they need to do a little bit more. We'll get back to that. We'll cover that near the end of the show. But just Thursday's ticking here quick. Mm-hmm. I mean, the biggest thing is what teams are going to go where, and even the game Thursday night. We got the Oilers in town. And what's their young new star going to do?
Agreed. And some people think this game is going to be a walkthrough. It's not. It's not. These guys, McDavid, you got the number 1 overall pick. You got a new team with a new head coach. You got a new goalie that they have on the other side, Cam Talbot. You got a different Oiler team than we're used to seeing. You know, the dead last Oilers team. This isn't going to be a dead last Oilers team. They're definitely going to come out firing on all cylinders, and you have to assume that because they got a new coach, they got a new identity, they're ready to take flight.
And TSN saying that the Blues get knocked out in the second round by Dallas.
I don't agree with that.
That I think is kind of a stretch myself, but I mean, other predictions are, yeah. And Dallas may be a rough team. I think the Western Conference overall is going to be tough, like it always is. But
getting into our season predictions here.
Yeah, and honestly, it sounds bad. I don't like putting a lot of stock in those, only because it's just just high profile guessing. At the end of the day, until you really start seeing those numbers fall into place, then you can start making a better prediction. And I don't know. I mean, they did also predict that Tarasenko wins the Art Ross Trophy. And are we and everybody else in the league putting too much pressure on Tarasenko? I think he's doing well enough to handle it. I don't know what you think on that, Sean.
I think he'll be just fine. I think he'll be competitive for the Art Ross. I'm not saying he's going to be a 50-goal scorer. He's a very underrated passer, I'd say, definitely as well. He can definitely put up the goal totals, but he can also put up the assist totals as well. I think he'll be definitely in the running for the Art Ross, and who knows, maybe even the Hart.
And I mean, it's so early to tell.
Exactly, it's so early to tell.
I mean, just the rookie class is going to be phenomenal. Uh-huh. So I mean, I'm not throwing any guesses out there. It's just too early. It's really too early. I hate being one of those guys that does all the prediction stuff. Because last year, the way the Blues team looked, I'd have predicted they at least were in the Western Conference Finals.
I think we all did.
Yeah, and you see how much how wrong everybody would have been.
Uh-huh.
But it's just it's the buzz of the season is the biggest thing for me is when I walked into the rink during training camp and just stepped into the Scottrade, looked at the ice, and knew it was time.
Oh yes.
We and I mean, yeah, I love the Blues, but I love hockey. I'm a big hockey player. I have a huge tournament I'm playing in this weekend, and it's just the excitement of all that.
I'm looking forward to the tomorrow night's Hockey Night in Canada game, Toronto versus Montreal in Toronto. That's the first official game. I'm going to be watching it on my Game Center app.
And I'm glad you mentioned Toronto. I want a quick side note. I don't know if you saw it or not, but there's already a little possible little infighting in Toronto between Babcock and Shanahan.
No way.
Shanahan was out on the ice with the players today.
I did read about that. I knew he was out on the ice. I didn't know that Babcock wasn't happy about it.
And they said Babcock was kind of acting kind of an ass about it. Just very almost acted like he didn't feel like Shanahan should be out there. And both Shanahan and Babcock are very controlling people. So I'll be curious to see if that ends up turning out to be anything more in the future. But, yeah, I had just seen that a little bit ago reading through stuff before we started talking, so I wanted to at least make mention of that. Raffi Torres, Jesus, 41 games. Well,
when is this guy going to learn? He's gotten suspended. This is his 9th time. I mean, the hit wasn't as bad as Hosa's, but as his hit on Hosa, in my opinion. Of course, he hit the head and the jaw area. But when's this guy going to learn? When is this guy going to learn? You take out the instigator rule, he wouldn't be in the league. He wouldn't be doing this. I guarantee you that.
Well, he's the ultimate repeat offender, and I'd be curious to see what happens when he comes back and if he gets much playing time when he gets back. Well, because that's a nice way to be a jackass in preseason and hamstring your team for half the season now.
You know, somebody somewhere picked him up on their fantasy team, and they're probably really ticked.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how many drops he's had across the fantasy leagues. But, yeah, McSorley, when he got suspended, was a year. Honestly, from the way the NHL's been, I expected less than 41 games. I was in the 20 range.
I was shocked, and this was a preseason game. If this was a regular season game, I didn't expect 41 games. Like you said, Doc, I expected 20 in the 20-30 range. 41 in a preseason game?
Well, it's the repeat offender stuff. I
agree with the repeat
what happened,
stuff,
and maybe the NHL is finally cracking down on that. And there's one of the articles I saw today just about issues in the NHL in general is several people failing drug tests for cocaine and drugs like that. And one of everybody's favorite players was arrested for some misdemeanors today, Sean Avery. He got lippy with a cop and found some drugs and he's in trouble. Not surprisingly, but it's the NHL overall has been very good compared to other leagues on dealing with some of this stuff. And I think with the way the NFL's handled some stuff, you're going to see more of this with the NHL come out in the media and be more dealt with out in the open than some of it seems to be behind closed doors. Because usually when you hear about this stuff, it's secondhand or there's a real small mention. But I think the media and the NHL are going to have this out in the public eye a whole lot more.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I hate to see that stuff, but yeah. And
well, at least we're not having like as bad as other leagues or the NFL or the NBA where, you know, where we get in worse legal trouble with guns and stuff like that. At least it's not like that, you know. I'm not trying to put a bad rap on the NFL or NBA, but
Oh, I will. It's bad. It's bad when the NFL puts out an article saying, "Hey, we've not had a player arrested this month." I mean that. What does that say? But getting back into more of the game stuff. The
We got to get back
energy.
to opening night as well. Sorry.
Yes, the energy we have in St. Louis and I think really across the league. It's all the fans are getting excited. I belong to a lot of different Facebook and message boards of a lot of different teams for the collecting and the other things that I do, and everybody is excited regardless of what team they're rooting for. It's just the excitement of hockey,
I agree.
and that's what's so
Cannot
fun
wait.
about this game. But it's a lot of tickets being sold out there. I think there's still decent availability. I've not heard totally yet, but it's get there early. The Blues are going to start a pregame party starting at 4 out there on the plaza. Joe Dirt, which is local cover band there, is going to be starting at 5. And then the Blues broadcasters, Louie, Angela, the Blue Crew, all be out there doing stuff. I guess they'll be giving away prizes, all kind of things. And then want everybody in their seats before the opening night show. And
Opening night show is always great to watch.
well, and this year being the biggest one with them trying to get the World Junior Championships, and
that would be so great for St. Louis if that happens.
And I'll spend all the time down there during that tournament because that'll be you want to see future
absolutely.
stars. There you go.
Absolutely, and you know what? You get a chance for root for your country, and it's not the Olympics, but it's as close as you're going to get for hockey.
Well,
With
we get
what
to show
games.
we get to show the world what kind of hockey town St. Louis is.
Exactly. We're also competing against Buffalo and Pittsburgh. I'm hoping that, obviously, with every Blues fan, hoping they pick St. Louis because we really haven't got a lot of national attention when it comes to hockey. Yeah, we got a cover on USA Hockey Magazine a few months ago with Keith Kachuk and like how they actually had an article on how the growth of hockey has been through St. Louis. We haven't had a Winter Classic, haven't participated in an outdoor game. This would be great for St. Louis. It would be great for the game of hockey and also for St. Louis fans, St. Louis Blues fans as well, and hockey fans in the Midwest as well.
And I mean, again, that's something that all hockey fans are going to support, not just Blues fans. You're going to draw people all over the country to come to see that, and it's going to make for a fun championship if we get it.
Mm-hmm. Right in the middle of the country, it's the easiest for everybody.
So before we kind of wrap this up, any other thoughts on individual players, setups, lines for our team, or other players to watch from other teams?
I think Jamie Benn of the Dallas Stars is going to be a big player for his team, and he could definitely compete for the Hart Trophy along with Vladimir Tarasenko. I also think I know you don't like the standings predictions and anything like that. I have the teams making the playoffs for all 4 divisions here. I think for the Central Division, our division, I think the team that clinches the number 1 spot could be anywhere between us, the St. Louis Blues, Dallas, and Nashville. I think Chicago's going to get a wild card spot. And I also think Winnipeg is going to get a wild card spot as well. Again, now out in the Pacific, I think the Kings are back in, the Calgary Flames are in, and the Anaheim Ducks as well. I don't see anybody else from that division making the playoffs. Now out east, I think the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to be Kings of the Atlantic. I think Florida Panthers don't get in the top 3, but I think they do clinch a wild card. And I think the Red Wings will also, unfortunately, again, make the postseason in the top 3. Another team in the top 3, I think Boston gets back in there as well. And in the Metropolitan, you got New York at number 2. Pittsburgh at number 1 again. And Washington Capitals will get a wild card. But my dark horse pick here dark horse for top 3 is from the Metropolitan Division. Oh shoot, I had New York Islanders. New York Islanders.
Interesting pick, and you may be spot on pretty good. And you mentioned the Jets. The Jets are going to be one of those teams. Again, some teams will take them for granted when they play them. Like a lot of teams used to take both Columbus and Nashville. Kind of one of those throwaway games that if the only reason you lost it is because you played bad, not that Nashville or Columbus played good. But the Jets aren't that team anymore. They had a great season last year, and I think it's going to be another good one this year. And I will say, a side note and maybe a little bit of a joking one, it was nice to see Barrett Jackman already get a goal. Yeah, it's in preseason, but he already got a goal this year. So he's
exactly.
If he puts some in early in the regular season, he'll have. It won't take him long to beat the couple he had last season.
I agree. I'm predicting 4 goals from Barrett Jackman this season. 4.
We had to start a Jackman goal pool. We'll have to as we do more podcasts. There we go. As we do more podcasts, we'll just have to have a little what's Barrett doing this week segment or something.
Exactly.
But to wrap it up, everybody mark your calendars. I know we kind of mentioned this just a little bit one of the other podcasts, but Saturday, November 7th, 7:00. It's the Blues versus Nashville Predators. It's going to be our lounge outing. Going to be hosted by Thomas Brannicky at the Blue Note Bar and Grill. It's 3133 North Lindbergh and Maryland Heights. We're going to be doing a Rinkside podcast during the event. May even be doing it live. We're still working out some of those details.
Doing it live.
Going to have some giveaways. Hope to drag in just a ton of loungers. We have over 7,000 people. Let's pack the bar to the point we almost can't move.
I agree.
Got Super Checks bubble hockey. He's got Golden Tee golf. Who cares about golf? Come on. Got Bobby Orr pinball. He's got pool tables. He's got the official Budweiser horn that when the Blues score it'll go off. That thing is pretty cool.
That's going to be pretty interesting.
There'll be other events. Johnny be posting all this stuff in the lounge as well, all the detail. But if you also want to really make this event and make some extra money, the Blue Note Sports Bar and Grill is now taking applications, and Thomas is making his own jerseys, shirts, and beer mugs with the bar logo engraved. So we'll might be able to pick up some of those at the event. If you're looking for a job, reach out to Thomas through the lounge. He can get you hooked up. But I am so excited. That event's going to be so much fun. Just to be around all the loungers. We'll drag some of you guys on a microphone. Maybe we'll make some bets during the game, do something, make sure we have a phenomenal time, and I expect everybody to be in a jersey or be something Blues, and show Thomas how much we can support a Blues bar in St. Louis.
Johnny also said he's got the first round for everybody that shows up as well. So we need everybody as much as we can.
Yeah. Why do I think Johnny is now screaming at his face when he listens to this? But it's going to be a great time. It's November 7th. We're a month away.
Oh yeah.
So mark your calendars now for that. And you know it. The Nashville game's going to be a fun one to watch. Like I said, it's not a throwaway game like it used to be when Nashville first started. So lots to keep track of. Get to watch the first puck drops tomorrow, and then got us Thursday against Edmonton. Make sure you get there earlier if you're going. If not, find a bar or plant your ass in front of your TV with drink of your choice, and throw your favorite jersey or Blues T-shirt on and start rooting your team.
It's about that time again. Oh man, I'm getting anxious.
Let's drop the puck and win some games, and be excited to go deep into the postseason this year. We can only hope, because if not, watch out for a fire sale.
Indeed, I definitely agree with you, and I am so looking forward to continuing this show with you, Doc, as well. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great season. We'll be back at it next week, Loungers, with hopefully a few wins to talk about. Does that sound good, Doc?
Fantastic. For Sean Ditch, I am Doc Noyes. We will be back on again next week with another fantastic podcast talking even more Blues hockey.
Let's go, Blues.
Watch me light the sky.